Okay, welcome. I did put the scriptures in there. Let me just pin them for a sec. All right. Welcome. Let's begin with some prayer before we get started. Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We just glorify your name. We just come before you and ask that you just bless this live, bless this Torah study, help us to understand your word, help us to have new revelations, help us to retain the information so that we may share it with others in the future. I just pray, Father, that your spirit will speak through this study today, that you will let us know what you want to highlight and that you want to speak out to us. And I just pray over everyone in this meeting. I pray that everyone is healed and blessed. I pray if there's any anxiety that it's settled. I just rebuke all spirits of confusion off of people's minds, off of their hearts, off of their bodies. I just pray for wellness and health for every single person that's on this live. Heavenly Father, we just pray for the hostages in Gaza. We just pray for their release. We pray, Father, for their safety. Father, especially for the 10-month-old with the family. I just pray, Father, over that baby and over their family right now. And I just pray, Father, that they will be released very, very soon. I just pray that your messengers will find a way to organize a way for them to be released. I just pray for that baby's health and safety, and I pray for that entire family. I pray for all the survivors so far. I just pray for their the trauma that they've gone through. I just pray, Father, that you will just guide them through the healing process and that they will cry out to you fully. I want to pray over all the people on this live and their families, all of our relatives and our friends that don't know you yet, that don't understand you yet, and don't see the meticulousness and the beauty of your creation and your plan for us through Yeshua, your plan of salvation through Yeshua. I just pray for all of our lost relatives and friends that they will have an encounter with Yeshua, Jesus, that will amaze them and just speak to their heart specifically in the way that they need to be shown. And I just pray that Yeshua will meet them. I just pray that they'll be called. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, so Vayishlach, that's how you say it. I just got to slow down and think it out. Vayishlach. And he sent. So this is when Jacob will return, and he's going to have a run-in with Esau, and they're going to go through the country of Edom. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Petra, which is a fun topic. Yes, so there's lots to go through today. I'm really excited. I have some good notes for you. Get your pens and papers out, and we will begin. So the beginning of the study is Genesis 32, verse 4. Genesis 32, verse 4.
And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, instructing them, Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, Thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants, and female servants. I have sent to tell my lord in order that I may find favor in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 camps, thinking, If Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, Return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I am not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become 2 camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good, and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude.
Okay, I have good tidbits for you already. So you know where it says sojourned? there. I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. So the Hebrew of that word, it's also translated to I dwelt with Laban. We can look up that Hebrew word actually, and I'll share it with you. Genesis 32. I have gur. So that word, sojourning or dwelling, the reason that the rabbis have 613 commandments is from the gematria of that word. That's the only reason. The gematria of that word is the reason that they say there's 613 commandments, because you can break the commandments down into different, like you can divide them and you can separate them. And if you've ever read the 613 commandments, you'll see what I mean. It's not really clear, and some of them are kind of massaged. And so they came up with this gematria. Well, they saw the gematria of this word, sojourning with Laban, and they made it the gematria 613. And then they decided from that they were making 613 commandments. And then they went back after and massaged the commandments into 613 commandments. Now, whether Jehovah instructed them to do that or however that came about, I just want you guys to know the background. So when people say there's 613 commandments, you can count them yourself, because there's different, and there's also commandments that come from things that aren't necessarily clear commandments. So there's wiggle room there. I just wanted to point that out. So in the New Testament, the number that they've come up with, that people have come up with, they've counted, is 1,050. So there's actually more commandments in the New Testament than the 613 commandments. So how's that for legalism for you guys? Let's look at the structure in which Jacob prays. This is really important. When you pray, you can remember this structure. So Jacob prayed, "O God, my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, O Yehovah, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I am not worthy the least of all these deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown your servant. For with only my staff I have crossed the Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him that he may come and attack me and the mothers and with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make you your offspring as the sea of the sand, which cannot be numbered for multitude." Okay, so notice the different parts that he used to pray. He recognized who he was praying to very specifically. The God of my father Abraham, the God of my father Isaac, right? Very specifically, he made sure that he was clear about who he's praying to, right? He repented. I am not worthy of the least of the deeds of the steadfast love, right? I'm not worthy. He's repenting, right? And then he's doing an ask, right? So he's asking, please deliver me from the hand of Esau, right? And then he's reminding Yehovah of the promises that he already gave him. So that's the four parts. Make sure you know who you're praying to, right? Make sure you know which God you're praying to, because there's multiple gods out there in the world. Repent, come to him in a humble repentance. And also glorifying his name. Number one is when you say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name," you're glorifying his name, you're enlarging his name, right? And then you're repenting and you're making yourself humble and meek. So glorifying his name, repenting, the ask, what you're asking for, and then you finish it up with reminding him of his promises. Great structure to learn for prayer, okay? I also want to point out this. He said, "For with only my staff, I crossed the Jordan," with only his staff. So recall Moses, right? So these are shadow pictures. Moses crosses out of Egypt, has the staff, crosses out of Egypt, crosses the Dead Sea there, right? Sea of Reeds. We'll get into that later. But then you have, before Moses, you have this picture of Jacob crossing the Jordan with his staff. Let's get back to the Torah portion. So at this point, Esau's gotten like a camp of 400 men, which is pretty intimidating, right? Jacob is just coming with his servants and his wives and his children, and he's going to run into Esau with 400 men. So he's definitely praying, you know what I'm saying? Remember last week we talked about how Esau wanted to kill Jacob.
So he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. These he handed over to his servants, every drove by itself, and said to his servants, "Pass on ahead of me and put a space between drove and drove." He instructed the first, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, 'To whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you?' Then you shall say, 'They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present sent to my lord Esau. And moreover, he is behind us.'" He likewise instructed the second and the third and all who followed the droves. "You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, 'Moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us.' For he thought, 'I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me, and afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me.' So the present passed on ahead of him, and he himself stayed that night in the camp. The same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day has broken." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Therefore to this day the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh.
Okay, do you remember a few Torah portions ago when we talked about the thigh and what that actually is? Hopefully you recall. So they're wrestling. The one thing I want to point out is this word for wrestle. And let's look at that. Gotta go ahead a bit here. Wrestled, avak. So that word means to roll around in the dust. So rolling around in the dust. And you recall that Adam was made from the dust. So there's this really beautiful picture of Jacob wrestling, you know, with the dust, with the flesh, with being on this earth, right? And then he's overcoming. It's a picture of him overcoming and prevailing. I also find it interesting that he wasn't with his women and children anymore. He was kind of on his alone on with himself. And that's really like the picture of what you have to go through sometimes in life, where you just have to wrestle with God, you know, and you have to wrestle over your flesh, you have to wrestle over your desires. And then when you overcome, he shows you his new name, right? And we see that in the New Testament we can jump to the New Testament and look at Revelation. Let's just jump up there. Revelation 2, and I think it's mentioned in 2 and 3. I know 3 for sure. Yeah, here we go. So Church of Pergamum. So Church of Pergamum has the Balaam and Balak problem, which we'll get into in a couple weeks. Balaam and Balak, stumbling block of Balaam and Balak is sneaking idolatry into the camp, sneaking the idolatry into the camp and causing curses to fall upon Israel, to fall upon the people of God, right? And so Pergamum has the Balaam and Balak problem, but they're told if they overcome, they'll get the hidden manna. Okay, so what's the hidden manna? The hidden manna is the double portion of the manna that you get on the Sabbath day, right? Sorry, my moderator's not here yet, I don't think. So I have to mute people myself. Is there somebody I can make a moderator? David, are you still here? Just a second. I'm going to make David a moderator. Just mute people if they're rude. I never block anybody. I just mute them. Okay. Sorry, the hidden manna. So when you recognize that your obedience is required, right? Your fear of Yehovah, your reverence is required. You get the hidden manna, right? When you get the idolatry out of the camp, you get the hidden manna. That's the hidden understanding. It's you're being fed with the heritage of Jacob, okay? So you're being fed with the heritage. That's the hidden manna. And Pergamum gets it when they finally understand this, okay? And when it clicks for them, right? When they get the idolatry out of the camp, all that hidden idolatry that they have, so they've been hiding idolatry in the camp. Once they get the hidden idolatry out, they get the hidden manna, right? That's that. I'm sure you all went through that experience when you realize, oh, we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. Oh, we're supposed to keep the commandments. Oh, we're supposed to be obedient to Yehovah. It was like the scriptures unlocked for you in a whole new way, right? That's the hidden manna. The scriptures unlocking for you. And then they finally make sense and you don't have to figure out the contradictions anymore because there's not contradictions anymore. That's the hidden manna, right? But he also says, I will give him a white stone and with a new name written on the stone that no one knows except for the one that receives it. So as the Church of Pergamum overcomes, they get the new name. Now let's go to Revelation 3. And it's Philadelphia, I believe. Philadelphia gets a new name. The one who conquers, so overcomes, just like Jacob is overcoming, right? And he gets the new name of Israel. I am coming soon. Hold fast that no one may see your crown. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of Yehovah. He never shall he go out of it, and I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from heaven, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. So in this example, Yeshua is writing on the name of Yehovah on the people and the name of Jerusalem, right? Because they're going to be pillars in the city of Jerusalem. And so that will be their mark on them. And that is important to note because they have a special mark, which you can see later on in the book of Revelation. Let's go back to the Torah portion. I think that's all I wanted to look at. Oh, yes, I want to look at, so Jacob asks the angel, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob is asking the angel for his name and the angel is refusing. You also see this in Judges 13, 7-8. I could just take you there and we'll read that. Judges 13:17, and Manoah, so this is Samson's dad, and Manoah said to the angel of Yehovah, what is your name so that when your words come true, we may honor you. And the angel of Yehovah said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing as it is wonderful? Okay, so Manoah is wanting to praise the angel. And that's why the angel's like, no, it's not, don't praise me. My name is hidden. You praise the one who creates me, right? So wonderful is a hidden thing. My name is a hidden thing. It's for only God to know, right? Also, just a little bit of rabbinic knowledge of it's. I think it's nice to know what the Orthodox do sometimes, and you can kind of see where they get certain things from the scriptures, and what happens when you kind of do all this extra stuff and kind of read into the scriptures in an extra way. So in this section, when at the end, when it's talking about therefore to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh. So to this day, the rabbis think that is the sciatic nerve, and so they won't eat anything that's touching the sciatic nerve. And the sciatic nerve is too difficult to remove from the cow. You can't just remove it. And therefore, so when you look at kosher meat, so if you're going to get kosher beef, only the only part that's kosher is the front half of the cow. So they won't eat the back half of the cow. They will butcher it, and they'll sell the back half of the cow where the sciatic nerve is to the Gentiles. So that is why, just interesting. That's where they get it from. There's a lot of that in Orthodox Judaism. That's Talmud Orthodox Judaism, which is not something I follow, obviously, but it's just good to know where these things kind of come from, and kind of the religiosity that comes from it. Like, there's a lot of religion that comes from things. The Catholics do the same thing. The Catholics do the exact same thing. They build up all this religiosity they take a scripture and they build a whole ceremony out of it. They build a whole thing out of it, right? They do the exact same thing. They just do it in the other direction, right? It's making it very religious, right? So let's go to Jacob meets Esau. We're at Genesis 33:1.
And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the servants with their children in front, then Leah with her children, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. He himself went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell upon his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, Who are these with you? Jacob said, The children whom God has graciously given your servant. Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down. And last Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, What do you mean by all this company that I met? Jacob answered, To find favor in the sight of my Lord. But Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. Jacob said, No, please, if I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. Please accept my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. Thus he urged him, and he took it. Then Esau said, Let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you. But Jacob said to him, My Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord pass on ahead of his servant, and I will lead on slowly at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord and seer. So Esau said, Let me leave with you some of the people who are with me. But he said, What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came safely to the land of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, on his way to Peniel, and he camped before the city. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money the piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. There he erected an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. Now,
okay, lots to go through here. Really common thing, and it's kind of one of these like conspiracy theories that is not really true. When Esau kisses Jacob, there's dots. So if you look in the original Torah scroll, there's dots above kissed. And so a lot of people have kind of ran with that and made it to be something that it's not, like he was actually biting Esau. That's not what happened at all. What happened is those are scribal dots, and they show up multiple times in the Torah scroll. And what it is when the scribes were copying the Torah scroll, they weren't sure if that word was supposed to be there or not. They weren't sure. There at some point during the copying process, that word they weren't sure of. And so they put dots above it. And it is such an old mistake that they're not sure of. And this really proves the meticulousness that these scrolls were kept in, right? So it goes back so far that they actually say that Ezra is the one that put those dots there. And what Ezra says is, what the rabbis say that Ezra says is, when Elijah comes, he will tell us if that word is supposed to be there or not. So we put the dots above it, just so you know, we're not sure about it. And when Elijah finally arrives, then we'll know and we can adjust it then, right? Because they say that Ezra said, I would dare not remove a word from the Torah scroll. So when you look at this idea of the Torah scroll and how they were copied, the scribes were incredibly serious about not adding or removing a single letter. They'll do a little dot to mark things, but they were very, very serious. They count the letters. They're very careful. And that's why they all match. That's why they all match for the most part. I don't know of any that don't match. I'm sure there's probably an example somewhere, but they were meticulous about it. Whenever they copied it. And it was not common to have a Torah scroll, right? So when you think about the New Testament, and when you think about those groups of people, the Corinthians and the different groups of people studying the scriptures. Now, the first thing you have to remember is, what were the scriptures when Paul or Yeshua or any of the New Testament authors are talking about the scriptures? They're talking about the Torah scrolls. There's no other scriptures at that time. There's no revelation. The scriptures is only the Torah, the Tanakh, the prophets, so the Old Testament. That's the only scriptures that they have. So that's what they're talking about. They might reference to some other books like Jasher and Jubilee and places like that too, because those books were also considered. So when you think about Paul's letters and you think about the different things that are going on in the New Testament, you have to understand that a lot of these people didn't read, right? A lot of these people, they're not like us where they can just Google something, right? They had to talk to each other and they had to go through the scriptures and do it themselves. And not all of these churches would have had a Torah scroll. They'd be going on what Paul had already taught them and what the Holy Spirit was teaching them. They might not necessarily have a Torah scroll. A Torah scroll would be a very rare thing. Even today, to have a Torah scroll is a rare thing. They're expensive, right? So just really to put some perspective on the letters and put some perspective on the things that are going on. It's really good to be like, think through the reality of what was going on, right? There was likely eventually some Torah scrolls at these different churches for sure. And then obviously the books of the New Testament would come much later. I think they're mostly written around 70 AD is when most of the New Testament books were written, between 30 and 70. Don't quote me on that. I didn't look it up before I had this conversation with you. What else? So there's this whole meeting between Esau and Jacob, and Jacob's basically like, you can tell that Jacob still got a little bit of fear in him, because he's like, by calling Esau my lord, he's offering him gifts, he's offering him gifts again, just really trying to keep the peace, right? But Esau obviously did well enough for himself without the blessing, the father's blessing, and he's got enough, so he's not too worried about it, right? So the last thing I want to point out just in this section is Sukkoth. So this is that moment where Jacob names the place Sukkoth, okay? And so what you have to realize is Sukkoth is related to Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, which is related to the Nativity, right? So there's this ongoing shadow picture that evolves over time. And that's why it's so important to not take the nativity, eject it from the context of scripture, and put it next to a Christmas tree, right? Because the revelation of the sukkah is an understanding that is threaded throughout scripture. So this first instance where Jacob names the place Sukkoth, he's building a shelter for his cattle. He's building a shelter for his people as he comes into the land. It's a picture of Yehovah covering us, right? Just like Yeshua, he covered us. He's our garment. He's our covering, right? And so when Jacob's building his covering for his things that he's acquired, right? He's now acquired his family, he's acquired his cattle, he's acquired everything. So he's building these sukkahs, right? And he's naming the place Sukkot. So Sukkot will be the place when the people leave Egypt, okay? So people are going to leave Egypt after they've been in slavery. We'll talk about this in a few weeks, right? When they leave Egypt, they're going to go straight to Sukkoth, which Jacob already named. So it's a picture of, and I pray that you catch this, it's a picture of they're leaving the slavery, just like Jacob is leaving the slavery, and immediately coming under covering, okay? Saved, salvation, covered in Yah's house, in his tabernacle, right? They're being covered, they're in his tabernacle, they've been acquired, okay? So when Yeshua is born into the earth and he's born in a tabernacle, it's like a beautiful continuation of this story. That's why we don't want to touch these holy things, these holy images that Yehovah gave us, and set up Christmas trees and Santa Clauses next to them. It's just bad idea, bad tampering with the images of scripture, right? What's a carved image? You're carving an image when you're taking his image and you're ejecting it from the context and putting it somewhere else and putting things next to it. That's carving your own image, right? We want to figure out what his image is and what he's trying to tell us, right? Sukkoth means be still. So if you look up Sukkoth in the Hebrew, it means to be still, be still. So when the people leave Egypt, they come to Sukkoth, they're under covering, the army's still coming to get them. But what does he say? Be still, know that I am Yehovah, right? So it's way too deep to touch and put next to a Christmas tree, guys. It's just way too deep. El Oleha Israel, I think that is God is with us. Let me just look really quick. So that's Genesis 34. The mighty God of Israel, the mighty God of Israel. So El Olehi, El Oleha Israel, the mighty God of Israel. Might be a good one to remember. Okay, so now we're going to go into the story about Dinah. Lots of really interesting things here. So we're at Genesis 34.
Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl for my wife." Now Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob held his peace until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. The sons of Jacob had come in from the field as soon as they heard of it, and the men were indignant and very angry because he had done an outrageous thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing must not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You shall dwell with us, and the land shall be open to you. Dwell and trade in it, and get property in it." Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me for as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give whatever you say to me. Only give me the young woman to be my wife." The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. They said to them, "We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are by every male among you being circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will be gone."
Just going to stop there because there's a few things to make notes on. When you look at the Hebrew of seized her, it's not really clear if it was by force or by seduction. So when we look at the Torah commandment of seizing, there's a couple things to be aware of. And this is often a commandment that trips people up that don't know the Torah. And a lot of people like to talk about the Torah, but they don't really know it, and which is odd. It's prideful to talk about something you don't know anything about, right? So if we look at Deuteronomy 22, 25, "But if in the open country a man meets a young woman who is betrothed, and the man seizes her," chazak is the same word that you use when you go to war. You're going to go to war, you say chazak, right? "And lies with her, then only the man who lie with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the young woman, for she has committed no offense punishable by death. For this case is not like that. For this case is that of a man attacking and murdering his neighbor." So in the Torah, seizing a woman and lying with her, raping a woman, I should probably be careful, it's aping a woman, is akin to murder, okay? So it's the same thing as murder. It's the same punishment as murder. It's being compared to murder. Then if you look at Deuteronomy 22, 28, "If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed and seizes her," seize is a different word here. It's tafas. Tafas is, let's look at this. Tafas is still to lay hold, but to manipulate. Gentlemen, remember this. You should not be manipulating women's feelings. If she's not your wife, leave her alone. I say this from experience. If you meet a woman and you manipulate her, right, into the bedroom, right? He manipulated her into the bedroom, and they are found. The man who lay with her shall give the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. But because he has violated her, he may not divorce her. So he manipulated her all the way into the bedroom. You know, you shouldn't manipulate people even trying to court them if you don't feel like. A lot of times people get in these courtship things and they keep talking to people and they know that that person's not their person, but they kind of keep them in that relationship. If you know that that person is not your person, or you know that Yehovah has said no, don't leave that person alone so that they can move on so they can move on and find their person, right? Because you're manipulating their time, you're stealing their time, you're stealing their energy. So there's a really deep lesson here within the Torah, just how you treat people, like how you treat their time, how you value them, right? But a lot of times people will kind of string people along so that they can have that attention. They need the attention and energy, right? So they'll string people along. So there's a deeper emotional understanding to this as well. It's not just about, they got all the way to the bedroom, but it's also just about respecting people, respecting humans and their time, right? So then he seduced her all the way to the bedroom, so therefore he's got to marry her, right? So he's got to marry her, he's got to pay the bride price. They're not killed for this, right? He seduced her, she agreed, she was seduced, but she agreed, right? And so he's got to pay the bride price, and he's got to never divorce her all of his days. So if we go back to the story with Dinah, she was seized. And when we look at that word for seized, so first we have to look at the word for seized, and then we got to look at the consequence of what. So what is the consequence of raping a woman in the Torah? The man is killed, okay? So that could give you a hint as to whether this means that he actually aped her or if he just manipulated her and seduced her, right? So the fact that the brothers killed them later could give you a clue to that. That's something you can think about for yourself. I wouldn't know. People have debated on this. So the word for seized here is laquash. I don't know how to say it. I'm not even going to try. And that also means to take. It means to take. And it seems to be more connected with a chazak because it's a similar form. So chazak was the word for ape that we talked about. And then this word is a similar form for the word for ape that we talked about in the other verse. So it's very likely that he actually was more violent about it. So then, and he humiliated her. So that word humiliate, now this is where it gets super deep. Humiliate is ana. Ana. So ana, just looking for where I found this. Okay, so ana, when you look at the full Hebrew understanding of ana, so humiliating someone, it's connected to a testimony that you're giving on behalf of that person. So false witness. And this is why I'm so big on not stitching people and trying to make them look foolish, even if they're wrong, because you can bear false witness. And if you try to humiliate a person, you shouldn't want a person's downfall. You shouldn't want to humiliate them. But this is connected to, in a deep way, to what happened to Dinah, is that he bore a false witness about her. He treated her like a prostitute, right? He treated her like a harlot, but she's not a harlot. She was a beautiful human, right? So he's bearing false witness by doing that to her. He's putting a false witness upon her about who she is. And this was what happens when young girls, something happens to them at a young age, or young boys, young men. If they have something like this happen to them at a young age, it will change the way, and that's why it's akin to murder, because it will change the way that they view themselves. It bore such a false witness about who they are that it's very hard for them to unwind that. So often you'll see young girls who have had stuff like this happen to them, and they end up being very promiscuous, or young boys that have stuff like this happen to them and they end up being very promiscuous, or they become gay or whatever. Multiple times I've heard and I've met people who that happened to them when they were very young and they became gay later, right? And it's because it really messes up the testimony about who you are, this identity piece about who you are. And that's why it's akin to murder, because it destroys your identity in a big, huge way, right? And so that's really, really deep. That idea of being humiliated is a reflection of somebody bearing false witness upon you to change your identity, right? And so we have to be really, really careful. And we'll get into this more in Obadiah. Obadiah talks about this, how we don't cheer for the downfall of our enemies. We don't want to humiliate them. We don't want to uncover them and make them look silly or make them look stupid. Even if they're wrong, we don't want to do that. We want to take it to private first. And if it's a real problem, then of course we have to warn the other brethren. But we don't want to uncover people and humiliate them because it damages their identity. And the end goal is not to have a whole bunch of people damage identity around. The end goal is to get everyone to the kingdom, right? We don't want to close the door of the kingdom to anyone, right? That's not for us to do. Okay, so he loved her. He's drawn to her even after he humiliated her. And they make this deal. They make the deal about, if you get circumcised, then we'll intermarry with you. I'm just looking at where we are right now. Let's just carry on. I think we're at verse 13.
Their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the young man did not delay to do the thing because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most honored of all his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, "These men are at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade in it, for behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree to dwell with us to become one people, when every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us." And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. On the third day, when they were sore, two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city while it felt secure, and killed all the males. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went away. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds, their donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the field, all their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses they captured and plundered. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household." But they said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" God said to...
Okay, so just interesting to point out, Dinah was still in Shechem's house. She never got to talk to her father. Was she kidnapped? I don't know, right? Like, we don't really know the details of that. But if you think about it, they had to get her out of the house, which is interesting. She wasn't free to just come to them. So who knows? We won't know until the time comes for us to know. Another thing that I just want to point out is what the men of Shechem say. So they're going to go get the mark. They're going to get the external mark of the covenant, which is the circumcision. That's just the external mark, right? They say, this is their testimony of it. "These men are at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade for it. But behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives and give them to our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree to dwell with us and become one people, when every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours? Let us only agree with them, and they will dwell with us." So you can kind of hear the intention of what they actually want. They want the blessings that Jacob and his people had. They want to take all that in. They want the daughters and the blessings and all of that, right? Are they actually wanting to be in covenant with the Most High God? Likely not, right? So there's a really interesting picture there of, yeah, you can be cut of the flesh and your heart still isn't cut. Just like you can be cut in the heart, but your flesh isn't cut. You're still living in the flesh, right? So you need kind of both. You need to cut your flesh. You need to cut your heart and make sure the Torah is on your heart, right? Let's go to verse 35.
Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you and purify yourselves and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, so that I may make there an altar to the God who answers me in the day of my distress and has been with me wherever I have gone. So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods that they had and the rings that were in their ears. Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem.
So the rings that are in their ears, that's a sign of who they are a servant to. You'll notice further on in the Torah, we're going to talk about if a slave decides they want to stay with you, or a worker, we'll call it a worker, decides they want to stay with you, you put a ring in the ear so they know who they work for, right? So here in this picture, they would have rings in their ears to show them which God that they serve, which idol did they serve. And that's what those rings in the ears are. And so he says to them, put away the foreign gods who are among you and purify yourselves and change your garments. So put away the foreign gods, purify yourself, change your garments. We hear that in Revelation, right? We hear the same kind of talk in Revelation. Change your garments, make sure you have the proper garments on, right? And then they go to Bethel, and then that's when they gave Jacob all the foreign gods that they had. They gave away their idols, and then the rings in their ears. So they took the rings out that were marking them that they served the certain idols, okay?
And as they journeyed, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him, and there he built an altar and called the place Al-Bethel, because there God had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. And Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried under an oak below Bethel. So he called its name Allon-Bacuth. God appeared to Jacob again when he came to Paddan-aram, and blessed him. And God said to him, your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. So he called his name Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your own body. The land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you, and I will give the land to your offspring after you. Then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering on it and poured oil on it. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken with him, Bethel.
Okay, so basically he's just heading into the land now. I just want to point out the name change. So Jacob means heel catcher. And Israel means one who wrestles with Jehovah. So you're overcoming and wrestling with Jehovah and overcoming. So the overcomers, right? So as he overcomes, his name is changed and he enters the land. That's when he changes the name. You'll see the same picture in the book of Revelation. As people overcome, their names are changed. Their identity is changed, right? We went through the identity with Dinah, right? And so it's the same. You can change identities, right? And so you want to be in the identity that Jehovah gives you, right? Which is interesting because when you look at the world right now and the issues that people are having with identity and knowing who they are, right? All the lies that have been spoken over them and they don't know who they are. They don't even know what words mean anymore. One thing that I was noticing is that people don't actually know what words mean. They use words, but they don't actually know what they mean. And if you're ever wanting to look at the scriptures and you really want to know what something means, you dig down into the word, right? Identify what each word means. And that's the bringing back of a pure speech. So I think it's Zephaniah, there's a verse and it says, I will restore a pure speech. I will restore a pure speech. And it's a prophecy that Jehovah is going to restore a pure speech, so that we will have a pure tongue. And that's that point when people will start to understand what words mean. And he's doing that now. He's starting to unravel all these lies and what things mean, and he's putting them back into place. And so as you start to learn what these words actually mean, it becomes way more clear. And that's why you can talk to like a lot of mainstream Christians and stuff, and they have no idea. They just can't see it because they don't actually know. They don't know what a word altar means. They don't know deep down what's an altar, right? What's a pole? What are these things that are being described in the scriptures? If you look at the word altar and you dig into it, it's connected to a feast offering, having a feast, right? Because you're slaughtering on the altar, right? And you're having a feast. So if you have a feast, it's a type of altar. You're building an altar, right? What do people do at feasts? They cook a turkey, they cook a pig, they cook a lamb, whatever they have, whatever their roast beast is, they're going to cook that. And then they're going to have a feast and they're going to have a gathering, right? That's an altar. You're building an altar, right? And so when Jehovah says, don't put up an Asherah, don't put up a tree like an Asherah, a tree likened to an Asherah next to an altar, that's a feast. The feast day is an altar and you're putting a tree next to it, right? He said specifically, don't do that, right? But if you don't actually look at what the words mean and study what the words mean when they were written, you're not going to know that. You're not going to think that a feast day is an altar. You're not going to understand that, right? Let's move on. We're going to the deaths of Rachel and Isaac.
Then they journeyed from Bethel. When they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. And when her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, and she was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder.
Okay, I just want to look up Rachel's tomb. So if you Google right now Rachel's tomb, you're going to see a big building, and it kind of looks like a mosque. And so apparently there's a fake Rachel's tomb in Israel, and there's a real Rachel's tomb in Israel. And there's two different ones. Nehemiah wrote a book on this, and I'm going to order the book. I haven't done it yet. But what's interesting about Rachel's tomb is that it's also in Gaza, right? Because it's by Bethlehem. Bethlehem's in Gaza. So all of these places are in Gaza, right? They're markings of that Israel was there. Israel was literally there at Bethlehem. There's a tomb of his wife, and people are arguing and debating whether Israel has rights to Gaza, right? Has rights to these places, that this is their land. He literally has his wife buried there, right? Wild. People are saying that the Israelites were not there till 1948. Well, make sense. We're reading about Rachel being buried there, so make it make sense, right? So yeah, look into that, dig into that. It's quite interesting. You'll notice that and we'll talk about this later when we talk about Mount Zion, but you'll notice that there's always there's often a fake site of things and a real site of things, right? So you have fake Rachel's tomb and the real Rachel's tomb. You have three Mount Zions referenced in Israel. Okay, you have the one that the Catholics put a church on. You have the Temple Mount. You have all of these different places. So when people go and they try to find these places, often they're visiting the fake places. There's two Mount Sinai's. There's one in Saudi Arabia, and then there's one in, I forget where the other one is. There's one in Egypt, I think. So there's one in Egypt and there's one in Saudi Arabia. And everybody goes and visits the one in Egypt, and it's not the real one. And the one in Egypt is where the Catholics did that ceremony to the sun god. And it was a couple years ago. They went up and they did a new 10 commandments, and they went up to the top of the Mount Sinai, the fake Mount Sinai in Egypt. They went up to the top of that one, and they did 10 climate change commandments, and they did a big ceremony. And so you have this is what the enemy does. And this is why people got to wake up about this. The enemy doesn't build a whole new thing. The enemy takes what Yehovah does and makes a counterfeit. Whatever Yehovah has done. So Yehovah makes Sukkot, right? Yehovah makes the Feast of Sukkot and the symbols of Sukkot. What does the enemy do? The enemy makes Christmas and confuses the people. Yehovah has the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, right? What does the enemy do? He puts a Mount Sinai in Egypt and does a 10 Commandments ceremony at the top of the Sinai in Egypt. So all the people are confused. Do other people sit around and do what we do every weekend and do this and go through it and sift through it? No, they just believe whatever the TV tells them. They believe whatever the Pope tells them, and they head about their day, right? And they don't question these things. The enemy always has a counterfeit for every single thing, right? So you'll see in often these locations, there's two of them. There's two images. There's the real image that Yehovah created and the carved image, the idol image, right? That the enemy creates, because his goal is to remove the worship and the truth and the true understanding from Yehovah and move it over so that people are worshiping his revelation. So you're either worshiping Yehovah's revelation or you're on the wrong mountain worshiping the enemy's corrupted false image, right? His carved image, right? So think about that when you think about carved images. It's not just about carving out an idol and putting it up. It's about the false scriptural images that have been carved out, and they're the decoys, right? They're decoys, right? Okay, we are at 22, I think.
While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padanaram. And Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years, and Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him.
Okay, so just note that Isaac died near Hebron. Hebron, again, is in West Bank, Gaza territory, Palestine territory. So all of these places where we have clear documentation that are marked by Jacob and his 12 sons, his 12 sons are gathered right here at Hebron right now in this passage, and Isaac is dying, right? So were the Jews there before 1948? You tell me. Esau's descendants. Okay, we're going to go through Esau's descendants. I just want to point out that's the point now that Rachel's had Benjamin. They now have the 12 tribes. So that's your 12 tribes right there.
These are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites, Ida the daughter of Elon the Hittite, Aholibamah the daughter of Anah the daughter of Zibeah the Hivite, and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. And Ida bore to Esau Eliphaz. Basemath bore Reuel. And Aholibamah bore Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all the members of his household, his livestock, all his beasts, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan. He went into a land away from his brother Jacob, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together. The land of their sojournings could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Ida, the wife of Esau; Reuel, the son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. She bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Ida, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore to Esau Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau. The chiefs: Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Ida. These are the sons of Reuel, Esau's son. The chiefs Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife. The chiefs Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. These are the chiefs born of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these are their chiefs. These are the sons of Seir the Horite, the inhabitants of the land: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Hemam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. These are the sons of Shobal: Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon: Aya and Anah. He is the Anah who found the hot springs in the wilderness, as he pastured the donkeys of Zibeon his father. These are the children of Anah, Dishan and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the sons of Dishan: Himdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Kiran. These are the sons of Ezer: Bilhan, Zaavan, and Achan. These are the sons of Dishan: Uz and Aaron. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the chiefs Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chief by chief in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the Israelites. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, the name of his city being Dinhabah. Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Husham died, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, reigned in his place, the name of his city being Avith. Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth on the Euphrates reigned in his place. Shaul died, and Baal-Hanan the son of Achbor reigned in his place. Baal-Hanan the son of Achbor died, and Hadar reigned in his place, the name of his city being Pau. His wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, daughter of Mezahab. These are the names of the chiefs of Esau according to their clans and their dwelling places by their names: the chiefs Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Aholibamah, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom, that is Esau, the father of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession.
Okay, so what's the moral of the story of all that? Esau's kingdom was no joke. straight up, no joke, right? Look at all of these kings and chiefs, and like he had a serious thing going on, right? So if you look up where the kingdom of Edom is, it's, let me just show you. I can flip camera. Okay, so here you got Israel, Judah, Moab, Edom. So at its peak, that would have been the size of Edom. That's Jordan, around the Jordan. So there's Petra. Petra's right there. I want to go to Petra so bad. And then here's the Philistine kingdom. There's where Gaza is. So that was the Philistine kingdom at that time. You'll see that's the old Hebron. I think the new Hebron is up here. So I don't know about this. I'd have to look into this, but this is the old Hebron. This would be the Hebron of that time, but there's a Hebron up here too. So yeah, and this is the Assyrian Empire. Abraham came from over here somewhere in the place of Ur. We looked at that a few weeks ago. And so when Abraham came, he went through all of this down into this area, right? And then Lot, so Sodom and Gomorrah are, I think are right around here somewhere. And then Lot, this is Lot's kingdom here. So Lot and his daughters, that's their kingdom, okay? That's Lot and his daughters. That's Edom. That's the Edomites, okay? Hopefully that's starting to connect. I know it takes a few times going through it before it connects. So Petra, so cool. So they're called the rock dwellers. And the thing about Petra is all of these places are literally built for giants. Look at these people next to this, right? Look how tiny these people are. That's the door. Like this stuff, these buildings are huge. Definitely from giants. Definitely giants. Indiana Jones, the last movie I think they filmed it in Petra. Yeah, I'd love to go there. I'd love to go there and see this. So this is Edom. This is Petra. We'll get into this more when we go into the next little section. So look at the people, right? Look at the people, the size of the people. These are the stairs. These are the doorways. That's a doorway. Look at the people. That's a doorway. It's crazy. Has anybody ever been there? Any of you been there? Let's go. Let's all go together. I don't think we should go right now, though. We should wait till things chill out a bit. So Petra is in Edom, yeah. So when we get into Obadiah next, we'll talk about the cliff dwellers, the cave dwellers, Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show you. Here's the tomb of Rachel we talked about. So this is tomb of Rachel, images of that. Get the idea of what's going on there. That's near Bethlehem. All right, I got to plug in my phone. You have, Emily? Do you want to come again with me? We will go together. That'd be so fun. And if you ever want to see the old studies, they're on the discipleship training. There's a link in my profile. They're all their recordings are there. So you can go watch them there if you want to go through the old ones. Okay, so we're on to Obadiah. Okay, so It's not Obadiah or Obadiah or Obadiah. It's Obadiah. Obadiah. In Hebrew, the B's sound like V's. For you Southerners, Obadiah. That's how you say it. Obadiah. Not Obadiah. Okay. Let's get to it. We'll read it all. It's a really short book.
The vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. We have heard a report from the Lord, and a messenger has been sent among the nations. Rise up. Let us rise against her for battle. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who live in the clefts of the rock, in your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. If thieves came to you, if plunderers came by night, how you have been destroyed. Would they not steal only enough for themselves? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? How Esau has been pillaged, his treasures sought out. All your allies have driven you to your border. Those at peace with you have deceived you. They have prevailed against you. Those who eat your bread have set a trap beneath you. You have no understanding. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of Mount Esau? And your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman, so that every man from Mount Esau will be cut off by slaughter. Okay, so what is Mount Esau? So I want to say the Jewish tradition is that Esau is Rome. Now, if you look at the Hebrew spelling of Esau and you look at the Hebrew spelling of Rome, they're very, very similar. So they always say that Esau is Rome, but you want to notice that Esau also intermarried with the Ishmaelites, okay? So Ishmael and Rome, the Ishmaelites and the Edomites are connected. Again, Walter Veith, I think it is, the Islamic connection. You need to watch that because it's going to be really important in the days ahead. Rome and Islam are connected. Okay, you got to know this because it's going to start coming to fruition in the coming days, right? So Mount Esau is that picture of the Edomites, and they're going to be cut off. And so, will I not on that day, declares Jehovah. So he's talking about the day of the Lord, Yom Yehovah, the day of Yehovah, right? Yom Yehovah. He's talking about on the day of the Lord. Day of the Lord is the Yeshua's return, right? Isaiah 66 describes it, right? And it's described in the New Testament as well, right? Yom Yehovah, Yom Yehovah. And your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman. There's something I want to tell you about that. Oh, a Temanite. Temanite is a place in Egypt, or sorry, a Temanite is a place in Edom. Job was an Edomite. How do we know this? Well, Job happens, and then you have the Tenamites come visit Job. And what's interesting about the book of Job is that it's in a slightly different dialect of Hebrew. It was originally written in a slightly different dialect of Hebrew. And that's how you know it was likely from the Edomites. So Job was an Edomite, probably, likely. If you look at Job 1:1, let's go there. Job 1:1. There was a man from the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless. Oh, no, that's not the one from Uz. He's from the land of Uz.
Okay, so it's later on when the Tenamite comes to visit Job. That's what it is. But he says he's from the land of Uz. So the land of Uz was where Abraham comes from. No, that's Ur. So that's different. So I think from the land of Uz, that's how we know that Job was an Edomite. I think that's why we know it. I have to look up where Uz is. Let me just Google that really quick. And then later on, when the Tenamite comes to visit him, Tenamite is a place in Edom. Yeah. So Uz is in Edom. It was this area conquered by the Horites and eventually the Edomites. And you can find it in Lamentations 4:21. So yeah, that's where I got that from. So the book of Obadiah is broken up into 3 parts. You have Edom will be humbled. And then you have Edom's violence against Jacob. So the violence of Edom against Jacob, Israel, right? And then the day of the Lord, Yom Yehovah. So right now we've gone through the first part, which is Edom being humbled. So now verse 10.
Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. But do not gloat over the day of your brother in the day of his misfortune. Do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin. Do not boast in the day of distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Do not gloat over his disaster in the day of his calamity. Do not loot his wealth in the day of his calamity. Do not stand at the crossroads to cut off his fugitives. Do not hand over his survivors in the day of distress.
So these are really interesting. It's almost like warfare commandments where, you never want to wish disaster on people. You wish that they repent, right? So do not gloat over your brother in the day of his misfortune. Do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin, right? Do not boast in the day of their distress. We also see this in other places like Proverbs 24:17. We look at Proverbs 24:17. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let your heart not be glad when he stumbles, right? So now let's go into the day of Yehovah, Yom Yehovah.
For the day of the Lord is near upon all the nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head.
Okay, this is eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. Is it tooth for tooth? Eye for an eye. So the Hebrew understanding of eye for an eye is whatever you do to others, it shall be done to you. Yeshua touches on this several times in the New Testament. That is a Hebraic way of thinking. It is like the judgment will pour out to the level at which you treat other people. That's why you forgive other people to the level that you want to be forgiven, right? If you don't forgive other people, you will not be forgiven, right? This is that concept of eye for an eye. So judgment, what is judgment? When judgment is poured out, it is the fruits of your action coming back to you. It's the ground giving you what you've sown as seed. So we look at this when we look at the test for the adulterous bride, which we'll see in a minute. But that's what the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, measure for measure. So with the measure that you put something out, with the measure in which you do something, is the measure to which you'll be returned to. Remember when I talked last week or the last 2 weeks about how Jacob was deceiving? Jacob was deceiving, and he deceived his father to get the promise, right? Even though Esau sold it, but he was deceiving, right? And then he was deceived, right? With the wives, he was deceived. So the measure that he poured out was the measure that it was returned to him, which is really important because sometimes people think that they just got tough luck or whatever. But what we really have to look at is, what are we pouring out? Because maybe we're pouring out something that's being returned to us, right? And so for measure that we're pouring out judgment, measure that we're pouring out different things, it's likely being returned to us.
For as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so all the nations shall drink continually. They shall drink and swallow, and shall be as though they had never been. But in Mount Zion there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy, and the house of Jacob shall possess their own possessions. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau stubble. They shall burn them and consume them, and there shall be no survivor for the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken.
Okay, he has spoken. The Lord has spoken. This is not me speaking. Jacob and Joseph. So Ezekiel 37. Ezekiel 37, what do you have? The picture of the two sticks, right? You have the house of Jacob and Judah, and then you have the house of Ephraim, which is Joseph, okay? So we talked about this last week, how these names are used interchangeably to describe the groups of people. So in Ezekiel 37, those two groups are joined as one stick in Jehovah's hand. Esau is not joined into that stick. Okay, so you got to make sure you know what the qualities of Jacob are and the qualities of Joseph are, and you want to make sure you're in one of those sticks. You're either Ephraim or you're Jacob, right? Because those are the sticks joined together as one in Jehovah's hand. Esau ain't coming. Esau's going to be stubble, right? He's telling you right now, Esau's going to be stubble. So you don't want to be stuck in the Esau Edomite camp. And there's many people who believe in Yeshua and believe in Jesus, but they are stuck over there in the Edomite camp, and they got to come out of her, my people. Get it? Come out of her, my people. Her is the Edomite camp. Okay. But in Mount Zion there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy. That is Isaiah 56. Okay, so where is this? Those who will escape, they are on Mount Zion in Isaiah 56. Let's go to Isaiah 56 and make sure we have that. Make sure we know where we're going, where we want to be, to escape. Okay. So I always refer to Isaiah 56 because it shows you so many things that we talk about. Isaiah 56. Thus says Jehovah, keep justice and do righteousness, for soon my Yeshua, salvation, my Yeshua shall come. And my righteousness will be revealed. His righteousness is revealed. His Yeshua is revealed. Blessed is the man who does this, who the Son of Man, and the Son of Man who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath, not profaning it, and keeps his hand from doing any evil. Let not the foreigner who has joined himself to Jehovah say, surely Jehovah will separate me from his people. And let not the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. What's a dry tree? A tree that's been cut off at the root. So why would people of the book, people who know this book and study this book, want to cut off a tree at the root and erect it in their homes? Make it make sense. Make it make sense, because we're not supposed to be a dry tree, right? We're supposed to be a rooted, grafted in tree. For thus says Jehovah, to the eunuchs, to the eunuchs who keep my Sabbath, who choose the things that please me and hold fast to my covenant, I will give in my house and within my walls a monument and a name. Remember, we talked about the names. What's the monument in the house? Revelation 3. This is Philadelphia stuff, guys. So the monument and the name, they're the pillars of New Jerusalem. They've been given the monument. They're a pillar in New Jerusalem, and they've been given a name. They've been given Jehovah's name, right? Revelation 3, this is the Church of Philadelphia. What is the Church of Philadelphia doing? Are they erecting dry trees in their house? No, they are not erecting dry trees in their house. Okay. better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. So cut off. So remember we talked about grafting in, levied. So grafting in is being levied, levied in. That's what it means in Hebrew. So what do the Levites do? The Levites graft themselves in. They attach themselves to Jehovah no matter what. When the golden calf happens, what do they say? They say, no, we're going to stand for Jehovah. We're not doing the golden calf. So therefore, they are Levied to Jehovah. They become a royal priesthood. And that's why you look at Philadelphia. What has Philadelphia done? They've had the endurance of the saints. They've got the new name. They've got the pillars written on them. They've been grafted in. They've been Levied. So they're not going to be cut off, right? And the foreigners. So these are not, foreigners are not, they're not born Israelites. They were not born as one of the tribes by lineage, by DNA, any of that. They're foreigners who join Levi, foreigners who Levi themselves to Jehovah, to minister to him, to love the name of Jehovah and to be his servants. Everyone who keeps the Sabbath and does not profane it and holds fast to my covenant, I will bring these to my holy mountain, and I will make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be accepted on my altar. And for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Yehovah Elohim, who gathers the outcasts of Israel, declares, I will gather yet others to him besides those already gathered. So he's going to gather. Even the foreigners that Levi themselves to Yehovah, he will gather them all. This is the picture that's being painted in Obadiah, right? So let's go back to Obadiah. Obadiah, not Obadiah, Obadiah. Got my like English habits. Okay, but in Mount Zion, so this is the thing we just talked about. In Mount Zion, there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy. And the house of Jacob shall possess their own possessions, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph shall be a flame, and the house of Esau stubble. And they shall burn them and consume them. For there shall be no survivor in the house of Esau, for Jehovah has spoken. Next, the last bit, remember I said it was broken into 3 parts. Threes happen a lot in scripture. Just notice whenever there's a 3. So on the 3rd day, the messengers came to visit Abraham, right? On the 3rd day after his circumcision. On the 3rd day after Shechem's kingdom, their circumcision, that's when the men went in and did what they did. And then we have 3 parts in this breakdown of Obadiah, right? It's just interesting to watch the 3s. You can do a study on 3s in the Bible. So we're at verse 19.
Those of the Negev shall possess Mount Esau, and those of the Shephelah shall possess the land of the Philistines. They shall possess the land of Ephraim and the land of Samaria, and Benjamin shall possess Gilead. The exiles of this host of the people of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites as far as Zarephath, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Sepharad shall possess the cities of the Negev. Saviors shall go up to Mount Zion to rule Mount Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's.
So the saviors, multiple, shall go up to Mount Zion to rule Mount Esau. So who are the 144,000? Who are the 144,000? The savior shall go up to Mount Zion to rule Mount Esau, and the kingdom shall be Jehovah's. I had some notes on, yes, drink and swallow. Let's go back there. So verse 16, for as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so shall the nations drink continually. They shall drink and swallow, and they shall be as though they have never been. Okay, that is a picture of the test for the adulterous bride. So let's go through the image of the adulterous bride test. We're going to go to Numbers 5, 11, 31. And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the people of Israel. If any man's wife goes astray and breaks faith with him, and if a man lies with her sexually, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and she is undetected, though she has defiled herself, and there's no witness against her, since she was not taken in the act. If the spirit of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife who defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes over him, and he is jealous of his wife, though she had not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest and bring the offering required of her, 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour, and he shall pour no oil in it and put no frankincense on it, for it is a grain offering of jealousy and the grain offering of remembrance to bring iniquity to remembrance. Okay. So this is a picture of a man and his wife, and he thinks she's been cheating on him, and he's really, really jealous. Now, what does Yehovah repeat in the scriptures over and over again? He is a jealous God, okay? So this same picture, the test for the adulterous bride, if you understand this picture, you will see it throughout the scriptures, okay? So what happens in the test for the adulterous bride? And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yehovah, and the priest shall take a holy water in an earthenware vessel and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and put it in the water. And the priest shall set the woman before Yehovah and unbind the hair of the woman's head and place in her hands the grain offering of remembrance, which is the grain offering of jealousy. And in his hand, the priest shall have the water of bitterness that brings the curse. Drinking bitter waters. Drink the bitter waters, okay? And the priest shall make her take an oath, saying, if no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness, where you've been under your husband's authority, be set free from this water of bitterness that brings the curse. Bitter waters. What happens in the book of Revelation? Is it Revelation or is it Daniel? I think it's Revelation. All the waters turn bitter, right? But those who are not adulterous, doesn't affect them, right? If you have gone astray, though you are under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself and some other man other than your husband has lain with you, then let the priest make the woman take the oath of the curse and say to the woman, Yehovah make you a curse and an oath among your people, where Yehovah makes your thigh fall away and your body swell. May this water bring the curse that passes into your bowels and make your womb swell and your thigh fall away. And the woman shall say, Amen, amen. And the priest shall write these curses in a book and wash them off into the water of bitterness. And then he shall make the woman drink the water of bitterness that brings the curse, and that water that brings the curse shall enter her and cause bitter pain. And if the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy out of the woman's hand and wave the grain offering before Yehovah and bring it to the altar, then the priest shall take a handful of the grain offering as its memorial portion and burn it on the altar, and afterwards shall make the woman drink the water. When he has made her drink the water, then if she has defiled herself and has broken faith with her husband, the water shall bring the curse. The water that brings the curse shall enter her and cause bitter pain, and her womb shall swell and her thigh shall fall away. And the woman shall be a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive children. This is the law in cases of jealousy, when a wife who under her husband's authority has gone astray and defiles herself. Or when the spirit of jealousy comes over a man and he is jealous of his wife, then he shall set the woman before Yehovah, and the priest shall carry out for her all this law, and the man shall be free from iniquity, and the woman shall bear her iniquity. So the idea is that if she's innocent, it will be innocent. If she's innocent, she'll be found innocent and she will conceive children. And if not, she'll burn away. or her thigh and her thigh and her stomach will swell and then rot away. This is a shadow picture of the test for the church, drinking the bitter waters of judgment, the day of judgment. Okay, let's go to Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14. Just wondering where we should start. Okay, so this is the day of the Lord too. Yep. This is day Yom Yehovah too. Behold, so read Zechariah 14. Behold, a day is coming for Yehovah when the spoil is taken from you, and you will be divided in your midst. I will gather the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses plundered, and the women raped. Half of the city shall go into exile, and the rest of the people shall not be cut off from the city. So this you'll see in Revelation 11 as well. When the Jerusalem is surrounded in the courtyard, the city is given over to the nations. Okay, same connection. So you'll notice that these prophecies are in multiple places. And that's why you have to understand the Torah too, because if you're just a Christian who never knew what the test for the adulterous bride is, you wouldn't understand any of this, right? You have to go back and understand what the test for the adulterous bride is, and then you can start weaving that picture through the scriptures, and then you can start to understand why Yehovah doesn't want you to be defiled with idols. He wants to make sure that you're not being adulterous, right? Then Yehovah will go out and fight against those nations as when he fights on the day of battle. And on that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives that lies before Jerusalem on the east, and the mountain of Olives shall be split into two from the east to west, and by a very wide valley, so that one half of the mount shall move northward, and the other half shall move southward. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountains, and for the valley of the mountains shall reach Azal. And you shall flee as you have fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, the king of Judah. Then Yehovah, my Elohim, will come, and all the holy ones with him. On that day there shall be no light, cold, or frost. And there shall be a unique day, which is known to Yehovah, neither day nor night, but at evening time there shall be light. So you remember when in the New Testament, when Yeshua comes down, there's no day or night. I can't remember the exact verse, but you know what the one I'm talking about. When he comes, then all of a sudden the day and night are no longer happening. On that day, living waters shall flow out of Jerusalem, half of them to the eastern sea and half of them to the western sea, and it shall continue in summer as in winter. And Yehovah shall be king over all the earth, and on that day Yehovah will be one, and his name one, Echad. The whole land shall be turned into a plain from Jeba to Rimmon to the south of Jerusalem, but Jerusalem shall remain aloft from its site, from the gate of Benjamin to the place of the former gate, to the corner gate, and to the tower of Hanel, and to the king's winepress, and it shall be inhabited, and there shall never be again be a decree of utter destruction. Jerusalem shall dwell in security. And this shall be the plague which Yehovah will strike all the peoples that wage war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they're still standing on their feet, and their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. To me, that sounds nuclear. Just that's like what it sounds like to me. So you notice the living water goes out, and then you have the same image. So what happened to the adulterous bride? The adulterous bride, her flesh rots, right? And then you have the same image. The living water goes out, and to some it's bitter, but to some it's living water, right? Measure to measure. For whatever measure that you've given out is the measure that you'll receive, right? So this is the plague. The plague is this going out, and then their flesh is rotting while they're standing on their feet. It's an image of the adulterous bride. And on that day, a great panic from Yehovah shall fall on them, and each one will seize the hand of another, and the hand of one another will be raised against the hand of other. Even Judah will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of the surrounding nations shall be collected, gold and silver, garments in great abundance. And the plague, like this plague, shall fall upon the horses, mules, camels, donkeys, and whatever beasts that may be in those camps. If you want to see this exact picture again, go to Isaiah 66. It's there, okay? Then everyone who survives of all the nations shall come against Jerusalem and shall go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, Yehovah of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Booths. And if any families of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, Lord of hosts, there will be no rain upon them. And the family of Egypt that does not go up and present themselves, then on there shall be no rain, and there shall be all the plague in which Yehovah afflicts the nations that do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. So they're keeping the Feast of Booths after the day of the Lord. The nations have to go to Jerusalem, whoever survives. It's all said and done. Everything's said and done. Whoever survives in the nations, they have to go up to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Booths. And if they do not go up, they will not receive rain. Okay? So when people tell you that the feasts are done away with, that the Torah is done away with, they are so misinformed. It's crazy. So the Feast of Booths is being kept here after the Day of Judgment. We keep it now as a practice. We learn about it so we know what it is, and so we can practice. This shall be the punishment to Egypt and the punishment to all the nations who do not go up to keep the Feast of Booths. And on that day, there shall be inscribed on the bells of the horses, holy to Yehovah. And the pots in the house of Yehovah shall be as bowls before the altar. And every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holy unto Yehovah, holy to Yehovah of hosts, so that all who sacrifice may come and take out of them and boil the meat and sacrifice in them. And there shall no longer be a trader like merchandiser, people trying to make money in the house of Yehovah of hosts on that day. So that's a picture of him flipping the tables of the money exchangers. Pot is sarah, a household utensil for boiling. Symbol, pots used in sanctuary, just a pot. So yeah, I'll just leave it there. Let's go into Matthew, see what Matthew has to say about all this. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Yeah, let's go into Matthew 2:13.
Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, Rise, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he rose and took the child and his mother by night, and departed to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, Out of Egypt I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. And he rose and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, and being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. And he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene.
Okay, so just going through the prophecies. I'm wondering if that prophecy is in Obadiah of him going to Egypt. I don't think so. Anyways, so yeah, that's talking about Herod and Yeshua fleeing to Egypt to avoid Herod. I'm sure you all are aware of the story. So Yeshua was born in Nazareth. So Nazar means branch. And so we can read about that in Isaiah 11:1. Let's go there. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, a branch, netzer, from his roots shall bear fruit. Okay. And the spirit of Jehovah shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom, understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and fear of Jehovah. So there's 7 spirits there, 7 spirits, 7 feasts, 7 churches, right? You got to have all 7 to get the full understanding. A lot of people are missing the fear of Jehovah, which is reverence, respect of Jehovah. So netzer is the branch, right? Branch shoots forth and bears fruit. What is the image of the Christmas tree? Chopped down evergreen fir tree is the image of the Christmas tree. What is the image of the grafted in people? Grafted into the branch that has roots. Okay, the roots are the heritage of Yaakov. Okay, the roots. So those grafted into the branch have roots. Okay, there's other people that want to worship a cut tree, and by worship, look up what the word worship means. Worship means to spend time on, spend money on, give attention to. Okay. You can't tell me that you are capable of setting up a tree, purchasing it, decorating it, putting a star on top of it, putting an angel on top of it, putting gifts underneath of it, looking at it for an entire month and taking it down and then eventually throwing it away and disposing of it, cleaning up needles, bending down to water it every single day. You can't tell me that that's not you serving that tree. You are serving the tree. Worship is being in service to something. Whatever you're in service to is what you worship. Whatever you're in service to is what you worship. That's what worship means. Okay. So are you grafted into the root branch, or are you erecting a cut up tree? Right. Let's hit this home before Christmas time. Let's hit this home before Christmas time. All right, we're going to go to the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Which verse is that? I have to Google. I can't remember it. Daniel 2. I think the one I'm looking for is in Daniel 2, but I'm not sure. We'll see when we get there. Nope, it's at the end of this. I guess at the end of Daniel. Sorry, I didn't plan this, so I'm not sure. Or is it in Kings? Anyone knows where it is, feel free to. I have to Google again. Daniel 4. Here we go. Takes us a minute, but we get there. Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar is king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar is king of Babylon. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at ease in my house and prospering in my palace, and I saw a dream that made me afraid. As I lay in my bed, the fancies and visions of my head alarmed me. So I made a decree that all the wise men of Babylon should be brought before me, that they may make known the interpretation of the dream. Then the magicians and the enchanters and the Chaldeans and the astrologers came in, and they told me the dream, but they could not have made known to me its interpretation. At last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, after the name of my God, and in whom was the spirit of the holy gods. And I told him the dream, saying, O Balthazar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery is too difficult for you. Tell me the visions of my dream that I saw in their interpretation. The visions of my head that I lay in bed were these. I saw, behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and its height was great. The tree grew and became strong until its tops reached the heaven, and it was visible to the end of the whole earth. And its leaves were visible, and its fruit abundant, and in it was food for all. And the beasts of the earth found shade under it, and the birds of the heavens lived in its branches, and all the flesh was fed from it. I saw in the visions of my head as I lay in bed, and behold, a watcher, a holy one, came down from heaven and proclaimed aloud and said this: chop down the tree and lop off its branches, strip off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Let the beasts flee from under it and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump and its roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and bronze. Amid the tender grass of the field, and let him be wet with the dew of heaven. Let his portion be with the beasts of the grass of the earth, and let his mind be changed from a man's, and let a beast's mind be given to him, and let 7 periods of time pass over him. The sentence by the decree of the watchers, the decision by the word of the holy ones, to the end that the living may know that the Most High rules the kingdoms of men, and gives to whom he will, and sets over the lowliest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, saw, and you, Belteshazzar, tell me the interpretation, because all of the wise men in my kingdom are not able to make known to me the interpretation, but you are able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in you. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was dismissed for a while, and his thoughts alarmed him. The king answered and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream of the interpretation alarm you. And Belteshazzar answered and said, my lord, may the dream be for those who hate you, and the interpretation for your enemies. The tree you saw, which grew and became strong, with the tops reached the heaven, and was visible through the whole earth, whose leaves were beautiful and the fruit abundant, and which was food for all, under which the beasts of the field found shade, and whose branches the birds of the heaven lived. It is you, O king, who have grown and become strong. Your greatness has grown and reached the heavens, and your dominion to the ends of the earth. And because you, king, saw a watcher, a holy one, coming down from heaven and saying, chop down that tree and destroy it, but leave the stump and its roots in the earth, bound with a band of iron and broads. And in the tender grass of the field, let him be wet with the dew of heaven, and his portion be with the beasts of the field for 7 periods of time pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and it is a decree of the Most High, which has come upon the Lord my king, my Lord the king. So Lord, he's just speaking in respect to Nebuchadnezzar, that you shall be driven from among men, and your dwelling shall be with the beasts of the fields, and you shall be made to eat grass like an ox, and you shall be wet with the dew of heaven, for 7 periods of time shall pass over you, so that you know the Most High rules over the kingdoms of men and gives to whom he will. As it was commanded to leave the stump and the roots of the tree, that your kingdom shall be confirmed to you from that time, that you know that heaven rules. So Nebuchadnezzar is not giving credit where credit's due, that heaven rules and heaven raises up kings and heaven takes them down. And so Yehovah is going to cut off Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, and he's going to be a tree cut down, okay? And all that fruit on the tree is cut down with him. All of it's gone with him, okay? Therefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable to you. Break off your sins by practicing righteousness, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the oppressed, that there be perhaps be a lengthening of your prosperity. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months, he was walking on the roof of the royal palace of Babylon, and the king answered and said, Is not this great Babylon, which I have built by my mighty power as a royal residence for the glory of my majesty? So for him, glory of himself. While the words were still in the king's mouth, a voice fell from heaven. O King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is spoken, the kingdom has departed from you, and you shall be driven from among men, and your dwelling place shall be with the beasts of the field, and you shall be made to eat grass like an ox, for 7 periods of time shall pass over you, until you know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives to whom he will. Immediately when the word was fulfilled against Nebuchadnezzar, he was driven from among men and ate grass like an ox, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hair grew as long as the eagle's feathers, and his nails were like birds' claws. Okay, so what is the picture here? A tree cut off, right? Its roots left in the ground where the dew of heaven, so wherever those roots are, where the tree's cut off, the dew of heaven resting on it. And so people are taking a tree that's been cut off, erecting it, putting a star on top, putting an angel on top, putting whatever on top, and then they're putting like things that look like fruit on the tree. That's the image, right? And you know, you guys have discernment. I don't need to explain this to you. It's just use your discernment on it. Okay, there's another one, Isaiah 14. Just 2 witnesses. We gotta have 2 witnesses. Should we read the whole thing? Isaiah 14, for Jehovah will have compassion on Jacob and once again choose Israel, and will set them in their own land, and the sojourners will join them and attach themselves to the house of Jacob. That's Isaiah 56, you guys. We just went through it. So that's Isaiah 56 again. So he's saying he's going to have compassion and he's going to join, and the sojourners will join to themselves and they will attach themselves to the house of Jacob. What is the house of Jacob? The root of Jesse, the branch, Yeshua. We are grafted into the branch, okay? We're not grafted into some cut off tree with fruit on it. We're grafted into the root of Jesse, the branch, Yeshua. We're grafted in, Romans 11, okay? That is a picture of Isaiah 56. We're going to be brought in to the house, okay? And the peoples will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them as in Jehovah's land as male and female slaves. I don't know what's the context of this. And they will take captive those who are their captors and rule over those who oppress them. So this is often, I think the Black Hebrew Israelites often use this as like, they're going to have all of us that are not Black Hebrew Israelites as their slaves. They use this verse, and I know that in Orthodox Judaism, in some extreme sects, they use this saying that we're all going to be their slaves. But the picture is that all of the people who've been grafted in, they're going to rule from Jerusalem, but it's going to be a city of peace. It's not a city of slavery, right? So ruling over means just that you're passing wise judgment. Isaiah 14:3. When Jehovah has given you rest from your pain and turmoil and the hard service in which you are made to serve, then you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon. How the oppressor has ceased and his insolent fury cease. Jehovah has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of rulers that struck the people in wrath with unceasing blows, that ruled the nations in anger with unrelenting persecution. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. The cypresses, what's a cypress, you guys? The cypresses rejoice at you, the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were laid low, no woodcutter comes up against us. Just let you sit with that for a second. So after the day of Yehovah, when we are all gathered and there's peace, the cypresses will rejoice, and the cedars of Lebanon, so those are they're the firs of Lebanon, they're evergreen tree, will rejoice, saying, since you were laid low, so since the king of Babylon was laid low, no woodcutter comes against us. I don't know how you get around this. It's so obvious. Sheol beneath is stirred up, and you meet us, and to meet us when you come. It raises its shades to greet you, all who are leaders of the earth. It raises from their thrones all who are kings of the nations. All of them will answer and say to you, you too have become as weak as we. King of Babylon has become as weak as him. You have become like us. Your pomp is brought down to Sheol. The sound of your harps, your pomp is brought down to Sheol. The sound of your harps, maggots are laid as a bed beneath you. Worms are your cover. Oh, how you have fallen, oh day star. Star, what do you put up on the top of a tree? Star, son of dawn. Who's the day star, son of dawn? How you are cut down to the ground, you who lay the nations low. You said in my heart, I will send above the stars of Yehovah, so above the congregation of Yehovah. I will set my throne on high, and I will sit on the mount of the assembly. So mount of the assembly. Remember in Isaiah 56, it's all about Sabbath. The mount of the assembly is the mount of the Moed. Assembly there in Hebrew is Moed. That is the Sabbath days, the appointed meeting times, okay? So the one, king of Babylon, wants to set his throne on high and sit on the mount of the assemblies. So a mountain, when you see mountain in scripture, it's a place of going up in worship, right? So you go up to worship, right? And we go up to Jerusalem for the feasts and festivals, either in spirit or in our actual bodies. We go to Jerusalem if we can. And in the new kingdom, the millennial reign, we will all go up to Jerusalem for the feasts and festivals, right? And we will enter in, those of the nations who are not living in Jerusalem will enter in for Sukkot, right? So when you think of a mountain, think about the mount, like the doctrine or the worship or the understanding. It's almost like an altar that people are coming to, okay? So the mount of the assembly, So that is a mountain of the Moedim, the assembly where people are joining, where they're having the feasts and festivals, the Sabbaths of Yehovah. That again is Isaiah 56 is a true picture, but the enemy wants to create a false picture to move the worship from the true picture over to the false picture. And if he removes the worship from the true picture to the false picture, he gets to be like the Most High, right? I will sit on the mount of the assembly. So this is what the king of Babylon is saying in his heart, right? I will sit on the mount of the assembly and in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend in the heights of the clouds, and I will make myself like the Most High. So he moves the worship and he moves the days, the times and seasons, Daniel 7:25, in order to make himself like the Most High. That's why he moves the feasts and festivals. You are brought down to Sheol, but to the far reaches of the pit. Those who see you will stare at you and ponder over you. This is the man who makes the earth tremble, who shook the kingdoms, who made the world like a desert and overthrew its cities, who will not let his prisoners go home. All the kings of the nations lie in glory, each in his own tomb, but you are cast away from the grave like a loathed branch. Like a loathed branch. He's been cut off. Loathed branch. We're grafted in, we're Levite in, he's cut off. Clothed with the slain and pierced by the sword, who go down to the stones of the pit like a dead body trampled underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial because you have destroyed your land. You have slain your people. May the offspring of evildoers never more be named. Remember how we get a new name? We get a name that's everlasting. They will never again be named. Prepare the slaughter for his sons because of the guilt of their fathers, lest they rise and possess the earth and fill the face of the world with cities. I will rise up against them, declares Yehovah of hosts. I will cut off from Babylon. I will cut off from Babylon name and remnant, descendants and posterity, declares Yehovah. I will make it a possession of the hedgehog and pools of water. I will sweep it with the broom of destruction, declares Yehovah of hosts. So he cuts off Babylon. Babylon is a dry tree. Remember in Isaiah 56, the eunuchs will not say, behold, I am a dry tree, right? We're not supposed to be dry trees. We're not supposed to be erecting dry trees in our house. That's a bad symbol. Scripturally, that's a really terrible symbol to be erecting in your house. Whether you know what it means or not, it's just a really bad symbol to be erecting in your house. Okay. There's one more thing I think I wanted to show you, but I forget what it was. I think we've done enough. All right. If you want to get the recording, it'll be in the discipleship training. The whole recording of this is in the discipleship training. We meet here every Sabbath at 11 or 10:30ish, 10:40ish. Leo plays music for us for 20 minutes, and then I start going through the Torah portion at 11 Mountain Standard Time. So you can always meet us here, Mountain Standard Time on Sabbath day. But if you want the recording, it'll be in the discipleship training program. There's a link for that in my bio. And I usually post it on Sunday or Monday. Okay, that is all. I'll stop the recording. And if you guys want to talk about anything in particular, let me know. Oh, I know what I wanted to show you. One second. Before I stop this, I remembered what I want to show you. I want to show you the most expensive Christmas tree. Where do you think it is? Okay. Where do you think the most expensive Christmas tree ever made is? You think it's New York? It is not New York. Got to see if I can find a picture of it though. I'll show you the picture of it. Oops. It's one of these. Okay, we got top two. We're going to do top two. I'll show you top two. You tell me if this is about Jesus. You tell me if these are about Jesus or if they're about Babylon. Okay. So this is Emirates Palace. I believe that's Dubai, Abu Dhabi. $11.4 million. $11.4 million. Surely that's about Jesus. For sure, that's about Jesus. $11.4 million, along with diamonds, golds, pearls, sapphires, and emeralds. The tree boasted priceless necklaces, bracelets, and watches. If some were to ever wear its weight in gold, it might just be this Christmas tree. $11.4 million. Okay. Definitely about Jesus. Absolutely. 100%. No sarcasm there. Okay. So this is the other one. So that's in Abu Dhabi, right? Abu Dhabi, Muslim country. The most expensive Christmas tree, 15 million. This one, 15 million. And that's in Spain. Most expensive Christmas display on a Christmas tree across the globe was worth a total of 15 million. This must be a new one because this Abu Dhabi one was the front runner for a while. And so this one in Spain, 15 million. There you go. The more you know. All right, I'm going to stop the recording and we can talk and have any questions that you want.